Hi everyone. So I want to talk about why we should be more optimistic. Before we begin, let me start with a story. So there was an experiment done a few years ago, actually a number of years ago now, where there were two dogs put into two different cages, and both cages were shocked, right? And then after a few minutes, the person who was setting up the experiment made it possible for one of the dogs to escape, right? So one of the dogs is still being shocked, but there's a way for him to escape. But the other dog was still being shocked, but couldn't escape. The dog that could escape, he saw the opportunity and he left. The other dog who couldn't escape just kind of crawled and went into a corner and just endured the shocks because he couldn't do anything about it. And then took both dogs out, put them both into two different cages, where this time both of them could escape. The one who escaped the first time was immediately like, I need to escape, and then he found a way and he escaped. But the second one that couldn't escape the first time just gave up, even though he could see the way to escape, he just gave up and didn't want to escape. And so what that second dog had was called learned helplessness, right? And then the first dog, the one that was able to escape, had learned optimism. And that kind of goes into the topic I want to talk about today on why we should be more optimistic. And we all know about the saying, an optimist sees the glass half full and a pessimist sees it half empty. And so, yeah, that's just kind of what optimism is as a concept, is the fact that no matter what situation that you're put in, you think that the outcome is going to be possible. It's going to be positive, And from the experiment I just talked about, it can be learned. And it's another thing that, it's difficult to grasp is that optimism is actually an illusion. Optimism is not something real that you can, see or is tangible. It's just a feeling that you get. And optimism is very interesting because of how it affects, health and well-being. And there have been some experiments done on the effect of optimism on a number of things. So I'll just go on the effect of optimism on health. There was an experiment done in 1993 by, I can't remember the name of the researchers, but basically what they found was that there was a 5 to 10% lower incidence of health conditions like stroke, depression, cardiovascular disease in patients, even though they already controlled for both. So it's the same incidence of the disease, similar age group, similar whether smokers or non-smokers. It was all the same across both groups, but they put them into one group optimist, one group pessimist. And they found that in the group of optimists, they had lower chances of getting cardiovascular disease or depression or stroke. And then they surmised from that experiment that optimism had an effect. And patients with asthma, rheumatoid arthritis, there was another study done, and it showed that even though that they reported pain around the same time. So it's not because they're optimists they are hiding the results or whatever. Anytime they felt pain, they would report it. But they still found that there was a lower incidence of this pain when they were optimists as opposed to when they were pessimists. And optimism has also been shown to reduce the levels of cortisol, which is the stress hormone in the body. So it's got an effect on that as well. Now, if we go into well-being, there has been a study. This study was done in 1995 on freshmen in the University of, I think, Florida or the University of Phoenix now. And they got the new college freshmen, got them into two groups, the optimistic group and the pessimistic group. And it's the same thing. They controlled for everything else. And so they were only looking at optimism as opposed to pessimism. And they followed these people across the semester. And they found that the optimistic freshmen had lower levels of stress. They had lower levels of like any psychological issue because they went into the year thinking, it's going to be great. Just, going with that feeling that it's going to be great, it really, really helped them. And then the analysis, based on all the meta-analysis on all of these reports on optimism, has shown that optimism is positively correlated with satisfaction and happiness. Another thing has been found that optimists tend to choose healthier lifestyles. It's not like if you're an optimist, you're more healthy, but as an optimist, you're more likely to choose a healthier lifestyle because you're thinking of, longer, you're thinking of, subconsciously kind of thinking of living longer, doing more things. And so we've kind of seen the effects of optimism. I know you're kind of thinking, okay, how can I be more optimistic? So, to be more optimistic, just a few things. Again, it's in the mind. It can all be learned, but you can start by giving yourself and others positive feedback. When you always see the positive in everyone and in everything you do, you're going to tend to be more optimistic about things. You make friends with an optimist, and you write down the good things. And I'll end with another story of myself where I used to work in an HIV research center, and as you know, with HIV, there's quite a few deaths. And, it got to a point where it was kind of weighing down on me personally, mentally, emotionally. But I decided that's kind of when I learned about optimism and how it affects you in your workplace, in your personal life. And so I decided, I'm going to be more optimistic. I'm going to look for the positive aspects. So I started looking more into cases of people who had the disease, they had HIV, they decided to stay positive and just do things as normal. And then in the research, we kind of found that it was a small increase, but there was a tangible increase in outcomes. So they lived healthier, they lived longer. I give the example of one of my patients who, before she started taking her HIV medication, she was told she had about 2 years left to live or something. Mm-hmm. And then she started taking the drugs, and she had this very positive attitude. And then last year, her child just got into primary school. She, between when she was told that she only had a few years to live, she got married, had a child is in primary school, and then she just wanted to celebrate, and then she brought food and stuff and everything, to us in the clinic, and then I kind of picked on that specific example of the positive power of optimism. So that's where I'm going to end my presentation here. These are the conclusions. So be more optimistic. Being more optimistic reduces how much stress you have. You tend to live a healthier lifestyle when you're optimistic, and you can always be better than the situation that you are right now. And here are my references.